pretty safe to say. God give it, God take it away. It's the worldwide American way. I'm living proof.
What's going on, team? Proof here, and today I'm going to be giving my star ratings of the cards from Tech Booster 1, the Reckless Rampage. I've been thinking about doing this for a while now. I just kind of got busy with work and then trying to figure out where cards would fall in this. But Tech Booster 1 came out in February 2016, which is about 14 months ago, and it had a really big impact on Spike Brothers as a whole. And I thought it would be fun to go through all the cards released and give my thoughts and opinions on their ratings from 1 star to 5 stars. And I kind of borrowed this from the Hearthstone streamer Trump and kind of configured it to my own sensibilities for the purposes of this video. So let me know what you think about it. And the star ratings are as follows, with 1 star being no impact in any of the decks whatsoever, 2 stars meaning it has fringe uses and it's seen in some of the non-meta decks, 3 stars is that it's sometimes seen in the meta decks and often seen in the non-meta decks, 4 stars is that it's often seen in the meta decks and it's a defining card in the non-meta decks. 5 stars means it's a defining card in the meta decks, or it's outside the meta decks, but it's so disgustingly powerful that it has no reason to be a 4-star card. And my thinking is that for what I describe as meta versus non-meta, it's if you sit down across from a person and they flip over their starter and you can identify that it's Spike Brothers, what deck is it most likely going to be? And for that purposes, meta decks are Risin decks, the Bad Blitz deck, which features abusing the double break ride of Bad Dragger, and the Bad Jessica deck, which features Bad and then it can kind of turn itself. It can play like both Bad and Jessica to their benefits, trying to utilize both their strengths to achieve victory. And the non-meta decks for these purposes are the Pure Deadly decks and the Bloody Ogle Bloody End decks. So with that, I'm gonna go from 1 star to 5 stars and give my thoughts and opinions on each of them. So let's go ahead and get into it. 1 star, we have Genie Lamp Receiver. Genie itself had no impact whatsoever because it came later than it needed to. And because Spike's always wanted a 12k attacker during the break ride era to abuse with Bad that wasn't, what's his name? Charge and Bill Collector, which is the 11k attacker if you have an LB or a Limit Breaker LB4 Vanguard. We wanted something else in that regard as well, but since it's only a 12k attacker, when you hit Generation Break 1, it's too slow for the impact that you get for it, and it's too little too late. Psychic Male, I actually tried this a little bit just as a fun thing, but it never panned out because Mecha Trainer was always better. And also there's Mecha Analyzer as well, which you can use with your Bad Index. Even though she adds Soul for Miracle Ace and now Mayhem Tiger, she's still not as well off as she could be because Mecha Trainer and Mecha Analyzer exists. So I say just get rid of her and play one of the other 2 starters. For 2 stars, we're gonna start off with Commander Gary Gannon. He was really big during early on in the Legion era to utilize to filter pieces for your Bad Ends, your Frozen Ogles, your Bloody Ogles, trying to get those together for your big break ride Legion combo. But as time has gone on, some of the Bad End decks have shifted to using Mecha Analyzer as their starter, which means you can't reliably fit him in because Mecha Analyzer is best behind Vanguard, which is where Gary Gannon needs to be to get most use out of him. And if you're playing Analyzer over Mecha Trainer, you can't use an ability to reliably search him out before his uses are no longer required. It kind of sounds like there's a song in there somewhere. So that's why he has some uses, some fringe uses in those decks. He might still be seen in the Bloody Index from time to time or as a way to filter pieces, but he's not seen quite as often as he used to be. And this hurt me good old catball player. After set 9 came out, he went from being a means to fuel your Miracle Ace turn to becoming more of a fringe one-off, most likely one-off use. I've seen Dexter use this too, but mostly it's either not seen or it's a one-of for the purpose of boosting up something for 4K. And with that, it kind of made his way to being a bench role player versus being a more reserve role player, which kind of hurt me because I like catball. 3 stars, we start off with Ashdiver, and I personally I want to like Ashdiver because his art is amazing, but his uses are kind of awkward in the sense that he uses up resources, which takes away from your Risin, your Miracle Aces, your Picaros, anything that uses that counter blast, and also uses up soul from your Miracle Aces and your Mayhem Tigers now for the ability. And he has most use with lethal forward now to try to abuse the on hit to kind of chain attacks together. But he also is fighting for multi-attack rolls with the likes of Eliza now, which can do similar things, but it can be boosted and it doesn't need to be called out from deck to do what it needs to do. It can facilitate the 10K on Supernova on your first stride, but that's arguably not as good as the triple Tiger combo that I like to feature and I featured before on the channel. I know people like to use him, and he has some fringe applications, which is why I put him as I know fringe use is a 2-star, but I put him as a 3-star because I've seen him pop up more and more than I have the likes of Moodmaker, so I couldn't on that put it as a 2-star. I put it more in a 3-star, and you can't use it in other decks because he has Risin attached to it, so that's why he kind of sits in that middle ground of being 2-star versus 3-star. Heatweeze here, which is Baby Dove, he used to be super auto include in the set before, or in the meta that happened before set 9 came out. But when Mayhem Tiger came out in set 9, he kind of took the role of power, even though Mayhem doesn't quite add power. He has a similar role that Mayhem or that Heatweeze fulfilled, which is abusing your opponent with high-powered columns and high-powered threatening things to force hits in to make way for your skills later. And when Mayhem came out, he kind of squeezed out Heatweeze a little bit to where he's not quite as auto-include as he used to be. I personally haven't used Heatweeze in his capacity as often as I would the likes of Cobalt Impulse with Mayhem Tiger. So that's why I kind of put him at 3-star. I know recently in the Singapore championships, the deck that got 4th featured 3 Heatweeze in there. So there might be a shift coming, but I don't know if it's gonna be seen just off of the deck top and just one deck top, and we'll see how things come around though. And then starting off the 4 stars, we have Bulldozer Dove. I know it seems kind of weird to put him as a 4-star considering what he can do, but when it comes to the Risin decks, he can sometimes be a 2-of, sometimes he fits into the role of a 1-of, sometimes he's not even seen there at all because people might prioritize the use of Heatweeze over the use of Dove, which I've started to utilize myself again in testing. And as good as he is, if there's a grade 3 to cut from your Risin decks, he's going to be the first one to cut over the likes of Hivemaker. Did I say Heatweeze earlier? I meant Hivemaker. Even though he's really strong, but as I said, he's likely going to be the first one you want to cut out, which is why I put him as a 4-star. Cheer Girl Elsa, excuse me. I know she's like the engine to keep your brake ride going, or she gives you the ability to facilitate your brake ride early. But I wouldn't, I thought if I have to debate between if you're a 4-star or a 5-star, I can't feasibly put you into the 5-star category, which might be a theme for another one of these cards coming up. But my thinking is that there's a time and place where you don't need Eliza, or you can't have her on board for one reason or another, or her uses might not be as necessary because you're at 5 damage or something, so you no longer need her on the board. Or you can't reliably search her out with your if you're playing Mecha Trainer, you can't search her out because you need that counter blast, or if you playing Mecha Analyze, you can't search her out and she's not in your hand type of thing. But then at the same time, you don't want to clog down your deck with Elizas to draw into them too often, because you can cut into your other pieces that you need more reliably. So she's in that weird zone to where if I had a 4.5, I might put her there. But as it is now, I put her as a 4-star for those reasons I mentioned previously. We got Buster Wolf, Cobalt Impulse. I put him as a 4-star because he is one of Spike's only means of gathering advantage. Because if he hits, he's a long extended break even, because you give up a card to search him out for most of your skills. He has to hit, which then you can +2 off of that, but then he goes back to the deck, so he doesn't stick around. But even though he's a big break even, the benefits you get from him far exceed what you gave up to search him out, in my opinion. And he's most commonly seen in the charge based decks when it comes to auxiliary grade 2 options, because his on hit is always relevant, because you can use it with Miracle Ace to get more pieces. You can use it early game to force your opponent into an awkward position of using guard they may not want to use. And he doesn't conflict with any of your other cards, like Lethal Forward can be turned off because you have another front row unit on your opposite side, but that case isn't relevant with Cobalt here. Excuse me. And so with that, I put him as a 4-star. He's not quite 5 stars because he's contingent on needing to hit, and that won't always happen. You can force guard like a boss, but sometimes you want the draw to happen or the retire to happen, but those are both tied to it hitting, which may not always happen. And this will likely be one of the more controversial one of the controversial 4-star cards, because I know she has half the namesake of the deck that she's commonly found in, which is the Bad End Jessica deck. But the issue comes in with that is that most of her oomph and that push through that she has comes from the Bad End side of the deck, more so than her side of the deck. Because with the 10k you get from Bad End, or the 20k if you abuse the double break ride, helps push the deck over the edge. And then sometimes through the use of good, and you search out your Jessica and you try to ride out your GB2 after you G-guard or something, or if you already have GB2, to help survive to lead into your future stride turns from there. And it's she also kind of hindered by the fact that the Dudley strides that are available are kind of awkward with her ability. Well, not more so Geronimo. Geronimo works pretty well with her ability, but Dudley, Caligula, and Jessica have interactions where they might conflict with each other, and Caligula is sometimes your first stride option with that deck, to where you might rather be on Turbo Rappler from set 9 versus being on Dudley Jessica for how it interacts with each other. So there's potential for her to be kind of awkward. Sometimes she's amazing, but that's why I kind of put her in the 4-star category versus that 5-star slot. Great villainous Dancer Lily, who used to be our go-to first stride during the tech booster meta before set 9 came out, because the on-hit pressure was valuable to Spike Brothers to help set up for a Miracle Ace. Otherwise, you get a free attack off with potential extra benefits from your likes of your Cobalts, your Double Watches, to then just lead into your Miracle Ace and try to end the game from there. But with set 9 out, there's Supernova, which is more likely going to be your go-to first stride option in that deck. And from there, she kind of lost some of her utility, and she kind of fell back as a 1 of 2 of category to be used in certain matchups. Her skill is really amazing, but it's still tied to an on hit, so that kind of brought it down some. And yeah, her usage just kind of fell off by the wayside as more stuff has come out to kind of supersede her. And we'll see what the future holds for her. See if she gets knocked down even further from here on out. Mecha Analyzer. Analyzer here is useful in more so the Bad End deck than the Risin deck. Even though I've seen people use Analyzer with the Risin deck, I find it personally awkward to use it, and I'd rather use Mecha Trainer. But in the bad end deck, he's amazing because he can help extend your combo out even further to help abuse that plus 20k even more. And I've seen it, the fact that it can be used as a starter over Mecha Trainer is extremely relevant, and it helped boost it up, because usually I would say Mecha is king, but here we have, by Mecha I mean Mecha Trainer, but now we have another Mecha who's kind of like the prince, who was appointed by Mecha Trainer himself, if you look at the flavor text, to be able to be utilized on the team, and he brought with him a good ability to be utilized, and that's why I put him at the 4-star category. Another one that hurt me, because Millie is amazing in my deck, but on principle I couldn't put her as a 5-star because she's only used in my deck for her charge ability to be used with Miracle Ace, and not for her ability to come back to the hand, because it's pretty awful. The fact she has to hit and you need to discard a card to put her back to the hand if she's an attacker, just there's no reason to use that part of her ability. She's strictly used for the fact that she has charge. You can combine it with Miracle Ace to help her restand in your Frog Raider. So from there, I couldn't put her as a 5-star, as much as it pained me to do so. And leading off the 5-stars, we have Acrobat Verde. Like, there's no reason, it's the Stride Enabler. Like, this can't be less than 5 stars, unless you're DI with Were Tiger, but we don't have that here. And from there, that's why he's always going to be either 3 of or 4 of by and large. He's going to fit into all decks across the board to help ease the striding potential of the deck. And yeah, there's no reason to be a 4-star card. Devil Watch, boy, as awkward as he is being a stand trigger in spikes when our core mechanic is to call things out, attack with said things, and then those things return back to the deck before they could be restood, he's necessary, and he's really good at what he does, to where I couldn't put him as a 4-star card. I never had a thought to put him as a 4-star card. He enables Miracle Ace. He enables you to use Miracle Ace as a first stride post G-Guardian. He enables Picaro to help refund the cost of Picaro if you're taking a tempo turn, to help get you to the end game a little bit easier, or to help get you with in-game to resources more readily available to you. I've even seen them pop up in bad end decks, the bad end blitz decks, as a way to utilize Misery with Eliza a little bit better. He has applications across the board, and since he's not tied to Risin, he just needs to be charging. It kind of opens the door for him to be utilized a little bit differently, a little bit easier. The fact that he can boost is a big help to spike decks sometimes, because you can put him in the back row to boost your more threatening front row units, like your Mayhem Tigers, your Cobalts, your hive makers if you need to. And it doesn't clog up space in the front row if you don't want it to, and it can help be utilized in that form or fashion. The boy himself, Risin Nova, he is the entire crux of the charge deck in the Risin deck, and playing him at 4 is a necessity. There's no reason not to, and he helps cut on your combos as the Picaros, the Miracle Aces, helps utilize Supernova even a little bit better, because you can have 2 charge units without having to commit 2 cards from hand. It comes with an active filter. You can put in draw triggers and put out something that has more purpose. It opens up a lot of doors, and my favorite card in the game. And I didn't put him as 5 because of that, but because of what he opens up and enables for the clan as a whole for his deck. Frog Raider, which is, in my opinion, the most important grade 1 offensively for the clan, because he's prime target number 1 for removal things. He opens up a lot of combos as with the aforementioned cards, and the fact that he single-handedly gave Miracle Ace that much more of a purpose on his own, and what he does when you throw boost his way to make him a fat booster to then utilize with your Miracle Ace turns, or you can use it with the Picaro with the triple combos that I featured, and the fact he can keep restanding for no cost at all, just needs to be having a charging to put in front of him. Like if he was Counterblast 1 or Soul Blast 1, he would be infinitely worse. But the fact that he just needs to have a charging put in front of him and it's free otherwise, that's what makes him so amazing. And in my opinion, the best grade 1 that the charge deck has at its utility. Boy Picaro, he was god awful when when the tech booster came out, because him being GB3, meaning you need to have 2 other units face up at a time before G Guardians happen, meant that your options for first stride were Blizza, if you chose to play Blizza, which most decks didn't. You had to use up a use of your Miracle Ace if you're playing a Risin deck, which you didn't really want to do. You wanted to save Miracle Ace for later. Or you're playing Dudley and you use Geronimo to help flip one face up, which meant that you were on Jessica when you may have wanted to be on bad end, and you couldn't go into good end because good end doesn't flip. So trying to tailor your game towards Geronimo was a slow and plodding game at a time where even then the meta was kind of quicker and you were trying to win the game before your time ran out with spikes and you didn't feel comfortable going to the long game. But as of set 9, meaning G Guardians came out and more options to flip a unit face up on your first stride increased, went from a card that never saw play and became a 1 of to a card you wanted to see introduced under the 2 of, and he was there all the time because he became a reliable mid-game stride for tempo, or became a reliable finishing stride, at least in the likes of the Risin deck with the triple combo that I've shown you before. In Dudley, he became more of a setup stride for your Geronimo turn. He didn't really see much use, in my opinion, in the bad end deck, because your stride sequence is usually trying to put good ends together to try and finish off your opponent. But by and large, his stock went from like a 2-3 star card all the way up to a 5-star card, and he has set 9 to thank for that. And I can't see me not using Picaro in the future because of what he does. He scaled beautifully with the set releases that he became such a good card overall. Hivemaker's ability to call things out for a counterblast as long as he's charging became a huge boon for all the decks. He's commonly seen in the bad end decks, he's commonly seen in the Risin decks. He even kind of made a spot sometimes from what I've experienced and tried to test out with the Bloody Index as just a way to extend it a little bit more. He made like a 1 of that took the place of Skydiver, because Skydiver had to hit, but he doesn't in those rare times you had the counter blast to use. But by and large, the fact that he can cross decks that way put him as an automatic 5-star. The bad end Blitz deck would be far worse if Hivemaker was tied to Risin, because you wouldn't be able to utilize it. And the Risin decks, being able to use him on your Miracle Ace turn to help convert 2 soul into 1 counterblast through the use of Hivemaker, helps finishes off your opponents when they've used all their guard and didn't expect the Hivemaker to come out. And I got nothing more to say. He's an amazing card. He, as I mentioned with Dobe, he likely was used to cut out Dobe for more of him at times, and it's kind of seeing where the trend is starting to. That's kind of where the trend's starting to go nowadays, from my personal experiences. So we'll see what happens. Bismarck Alma, the countercharge PG, she's an automatic 5 just because she took the places of your vanilla PGs, your Marylands, whatever you used beforehand. She's a 5-star because the countercharge is so valuable, and because she's seen in every other deck that's not a deck that's focused on Miracle Ace. So she just spanned the entire globe of spike decks, minus the few like mine that use Millie over her. But that doesn't mean she's not a 5-star card. She's amazing at what she does. Ellipse, the Risin crit. If you're playing Risin, you're going to be playing Ellipse, and she does a little bit more. Well, what she does for the Risin deck is that you can put her in front of a Frog Raider and attack with her. You can shove her into the soul. You added a soul, and then you got the draw card, which helps refund temporarily refund you for the skill. Then you can use that card you drew for Risin Stride skill to then call a charge unit in front of Frog Raider to then you can restand and have a 21k attacker plus in that particular column. And she feeds Risin, she feeds Miracle Aces, she feeds your Mayhem Tigers now. You can use it to gain power to help push over 10k guard if you went first. She's amazing, and there's no reason to not play multiples of her if your deck in any way wants to use Risin. And then we got the big boy, the old go-to finisher, the guaranteed finisher, Mr. Miracle Ace himself. Even though his role kind of went down a little bit as more clans start to get more disruptive G Guardians, he's still an amazing finisher in the super late game to where a deck can't use their disruption to stop a Miracle Ace regardless of when it occurs, or against decks that don't have disruption, and you can reliably set your game up to still finish them off with a Miracle Ace. And first try Miracle Ace, one of my personal favorite things to do, is still a really potent first stride turn because of how many attacks you can get with the proper setup, which isn't super hard to achieve. And yeah, like when people see Miracle Ace come down, it's pretty much gonna be the attempt to end the game there. And one of my favorite strides, he's still really good at what he does despite the game changing since his release, and still one of the more potent finishers in the clan itself. And last but not least, we got Wink Killer Misery, the Amber clone, which people have touted as one of the top Amber clones in the game because of her utility and flexibility. The fact you give up a card for targeted search is really amazing, and she opens up a lot of doors across the spectrum of spike decks to where she's seen in some capacity in the Bloody Ogle decks as your Frozen Ogle 5 and 6 or 5 or 6 as a way, if you lose a Frozen early on, you can use Misery reliably. She's made ways in the Bad End Jessica decks to utilize your Bad Ends as a way. She also has a way to call during Geronimo turn. She's using the Bad End Blitz decks as a way to combo off with Devil Down Chemist, or call out your Devil Watches if you use it to abuse with Elizas. Call out just your Hive Makers to abuse to call out cards from your hand to help extend your combo. And of course, you use with Risin for your Miracle Aces, for your Geronimo turn, not Geronimo, your Picaro turns to help finish off the game there. And all in all, she's an amazing card to have, and yeah, she's really good at what she does, like I said, for a lot of these cards. And I see no reason to not include her if your deck is Spike Brothers based, unless it's the pure Deli deck. But even then, I've heard people try to squeeze in a couple Misery just because that's how good she is. So that's all the cards that Spikes got in the tech booster. So that'll do it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, let me know, and I'd hope to do it with other clans in the future. Maybe try to get some people on with me to help go over the cards for stuff I'm not as familiar on. But yeah, let me know if you enjoyed it. Give me your thoughts down below. And until next time, peace. Be easy.